Tom Hanks had spent 5 decades believing he knew everything about his family. He was America's beloved everyman. The actor who'd brought warmth and authenticity to every role, who'd spoken openly about his upbringing, his parents, his siblings, his children. His life had been an open book shared generously with the public through countless interviews and heartfelt speeches. He talked about his late brother Larry, about growing up in California, about the values his family had instilled in him. But on this particular Monday evening at the Late Show, something happened that would shatter everything Tom thought he knew about his family. An emergency phone call would reveal a secret that had been hidden for 32 years, proving that even the most examined lives can hold profound mysteries. The Ed Sullivan Theater hummed with its usual sophisticated energy on this mild October evening. There was something particularly special about having Tom Hanks as a guest. He represented a kind of authentic American goodness that transcended entertainment, a reminder that genuine kindness could thrive even in Hollywood's spotlight. The Late Show set gleamed under its signature lighting, and the audience was filled with the kind of respectful admiration reserved for true legends. Tom sat comfortably in the guest chair, looking exactly like the Tom Hanks that America had come to trust and love over 5 decades of extraordinary performances. At 68, he maintained that effortless charm and genuine warmth that made him seem approachable despite his legendary status. He wore a simple navy suit with a light blue shirt, his graying hair styled in that perfectly imperfect way that suggested both care and casualness. This was a man who had mastered the art of being simultaneously iconic and relatable, whose mere presence made everyone in the room feel like they were in the company of a beloved family member. Stephen was clearly honored to have such an esteemed guest, having just delivered a monologue that perfectly balanced current events with genuine appreciation for artists who use their platforms responsibly. The energy was warm and celebratory, and Tom was there to discuss The Lighthouse Keeper, a drama about a man who discovers letters hidden in an old lighthouse that reveal untold stories from his community's past. "So, Tom," Stephen began with obvious affection and respect. "This new film, The Lighthouse Keeper, is about discovering hidden family histories, about letters that reveal secrets from the past. As someone who's always been very open about your own family story, this theme must have resonated with you personally." Tom's smile was warm and thoughtful as he settled into the conversation. "You know, Stephen, I think every family has stories that get lost over time, secrets that slip through the cracks of memory. When I was preparing for this role, I kept thinking about how much we assume we know about the people closest to us, and how those assumptions might not always be complete." The audience murmured appreciatively, drawn in by Tom's characteristic blend of wisdom and humility. "You've been very open over the years about your family," Stephen continued. "Your parents, your late brother Larry, your children. Do you feel like there are still family mysteries you might discover?" Tom chuckled, his expression showing both confidence and curiosity. "Well, I thought I knew everything there was to know about my family history. I've done the genealogy research, talked to older relatives, pieced together our story pretty thoroughly. But you know what they say, life has a way of surprising you when you least expect it." As if summoned by his words, there was sudden movement in Stephen's peripheral vision. His executive producer, Chris Lick, was walking quickly across the studio floor with an expression of urgent concern and confusion. This never happened during live tapings. Never. Stephen glanced over, his interviewer instincts immediately alert. Chris approached the desk and leaned down to whisper something that made Stephen's expression change completely. "Tom," Stephen said, his voice careful and gentle. "I'm sorry to interrupt, but Chris tells me there's an extremely urgent phone call for you. It's from a hospital, and they say it's about a family member." Tom's face went pale immediately, his mind racing through possibilities. His wife Rita, his children, his extended family. Everyone was accounted for as far as he knew. "A family member?" Tom asked, confusion and concern evident in his voice. "Stephen, I'm not sure who that could be. My immediate family is all fine as far as I know." Chris stepped forward, holding a phone. "Tom, it's St. Mary's Medical Center in Portland. They say they have a patient who's been asking for you. Someone named David Hanks. They said to tell you it's urgent. He's in his final days and has been trying to reach you for months." Tom stared at the phone as if it might contain answers to questions he didn't know he should be asking. David Hanks? Tom repeated, his voice showing complete bewilderment. I don't know anyone named David Hanks. There must be some mistake. Stephen looked at Tom with growing concern. Tom, do you want to take this call privately? We can stop the show. Tom looked out at the audience, then back at Stephen and the phone. Something in his expression shifted. A mixture of curiosity and growing dread. No, Tom said quietly. If this is about family, if someone is in their final moments asking for me, I want to take it here. I want to understand what this is about. Stephen nodded to Chris, who quickly set up the audio so the conversation could be heard throughout the studio. Tom's hands were slightly trembling as he answered. This is Tom Hanks. Mr. Dr. Hanks, this is Dr. Sarah Chen at St. Mary's Medical Center in Portland. Thank you for taking this call. I'm calling about a patient of ours, David Hanks. He's 32 years old, and he's been battling advanced cancer for the past 8 months. Tom's face showed complete confusion. Doctor, I'm sorry, but I don't know anyone named David Hanks. I think there might be some confusion. Sir, I understand this might be overwhelming, Dr. Chen continued, her voice gentle but urgent. David has been asking for his Uncle Tom for weeks. He says you're his father's brother, that his father was Larry Hanks. The color drained completely from Tom's face. The studio fell into absolute silence. Larry was my brother, Tom said slowly, his voice barely audible. But Larry never had children. He never mentioned any children. Mr. Hanks, David has documentation, birth certificates, letters from his father. I know this is a shock, but he's been trying to reach you for 6 months. He hired a private investigator to find you because he said he had to meet his uncle before his time runs out. Tom was staring straight ahead, processing information that seemed impossible to comprehend. Are you saying that my brother Larry, who passed away 5 years ago, had a son that I never knew about? Tom asked, his voice growing stronger with disbelief and emerging emotion. Yes, sir. And David is asking if you could speak with him. He's awake right now, and he's been hoping for this moment. He doesn't have much time left. Behind the scenes, every producer and crew member was holding their breath, witnessing something unprecedented unfold in real time. Stephen was watching Tom with profound concern and compassion as this impossible revelation sank in. Put him on, Tom said firmly, his voice thick with emotion. Put David on the phone. The studio was so quiet that the sound of hospital equipment could be heard faintly through the phone connection. Then a weak but clear voice came through the speakers. Uncle Tom. The voice was young, tired, but filled with hope and desperation. Tom began crying immediately. David, is this really David? Uncle Tom, I know you don't know me, but I've known about you my whole life. Dad told me so many stories about his famous brother, Tommy. He said you were the good one in the family, the one who made something of yourself. Tom was sobbing now, overwhelmed by hearing the voice of a nephew he'd never known existed. David, why didn't your father tell me about you? Why didn't Larry ever mention that he had a son? David's voice came through the speakers, weak but determined to tell his story. Dad was ashamed, Uncle Tom. He got involved with drugs when I was little. Spent time in prison. He said he didn't want to embarrass you or bring your family down. He said you were too good for his problems. The audience was completely silent, absorbing this heartbreaking explanation. He used to watch all your movies with me, David continued. He'd pause them and tell me stories about when you were kids together. He said someday, when he got his life together, he'd bring me to meet you. But he never got clean. And then he got sick, and then he was gone. Tom was crying openly now, grief and regret washing over him in waves. David, I would have wanted to know you. I would have helped. Family is family no matter what. I know that now, Uncle Tom. That's why I've been trying to find you. The doctors say I don't have much time left. And I just wanted to hear your voice. I wanted you to know that Larry had a son who loved him despite everything, and who's so proud to be related to you. Subscribe and leave a comment because the most powerful part of this story is still ahead. Stephen was openly emotional witnessing this impossible reunion happening live. David, Tom said, his voice becoming stronger and more determined. Where are you exactly? What hospital? St. Mary's Medical Center in Portland, Oregon. David replied, Uncle Tom, I don't want to burden you. I just wanted to say hello, to let you know I exist, to tell you that Dad never stopped talking about his little brother, who became a movie star. Tom stood up from his chair, his decision made in an instant. David, I'm coming to see you tonight. Right now, I'm going to get on a plane and come to Portland. Stephen stood up too, moved by Tom's immediate response.
Uncle Tom, you don't have to do that, David said.
But his voice was filled with hope. You must be busy. You must have important things, David. Tom interrupted, his voice fierce with newfound love. There is nothing more important than meeting my nephew. Nothing. I'm going to be there tomorrow morning, and we're going to talk about your father, and I'm going to tell you every story I can remember about Larry when we were kids. The studio erupted in quiet sobs. Even hardened crew members were wiping their eyes. Dr. Chun came back on the line. Mr. Hanks, I have to tell you, David's condition is quite serious. His time is very limited. But this conversation, this connection with you, it's the most animated I've seen him in weeks. Doctor, I'll be on the first flight out, Tom said firmly. And I want the best care possible for David. Whatever he needs, whatever treatments might help, whatever can be done to make him comfortable, please do it. I'll handle any costs. David's voice came through again, now clearly crying with relief and joy. Uncle Tom, I have something for you. Dad left me a letter to give to you, if I ever found you. It's been sitting by my hospital bed for 3 months. Tom's voice caught. What does it say? He wrote it when he was getting sick before he passed. He said he was too ashamed to contact you while he was alive, but he wanted you to know about me after he was gone. He said I was the one good thing he did with his life, and that if anything ever happened to him, I should find you because you would understand what it means to take care of family. The studio was completely absorbed in this profound family reunion happening before their eyes. There's more. David continued. Dad kept newspaper clippings about you. Every movie, every award, every time you were mentioned in the paper, he has this whole scrapbook about your career.
He was so proud, Uncle Tom.
He used to say, that's my little brother, Tommy. He made it out and became somebody important. Tom was crying harder now, mourning both the brother he'd lost too early and the nephew he'd never had the chance to know. David, your father was important too. If he raised you, if you turned out to be the kind of person who spent 6 months trying to find me just to say hello, then he did something incredible with his life. Stephen was watching this extraordinary conversation with amazement and profound emotion. Uncle Tom, David said, his voice growing weaker but more peaceful. Can I ask you something? Anything, David. Anything at all. Dad used to tell me this story about when you were 7 years old and you found a lost dog. You brought it home and took care of it until you could find its owners. Even though Mom said you couldn't keep pets, Dad said that's when he knew you were going to be special because you couldn't stand to see anything lost and alone. Tom remembered the story instantly. A memory from over 60 years ago that he hadn't thought about in decades. I remember that dog, Tom said softly. It was a little beagle mix. We called him Scout while we had him. Dad said you cried when you had to give Scout back to his family, but you were happy because the dog got to go home. He said, that's who you are, Uncle Tom. Someone who helps lost things find their way home. The profound beauty of this connection was affecting everyone in the studio. Well, David, Tom said, his voice full of love and determination. Right now, you're the lost thing that's found its way home. Your family and family doesn't let family face hard times alone. Stephen made a decision that defied every show business protocol. Tom, Stephen said, addressing him directly. We're going to end the show right here, right now, and we're going to help you get to Portland tonight. Tom looked at Stephen with overwhelming gratitude. David, Tom said into the phone, I need you to do something for me. I need you to fight to stay strong until I get there tomorrow.
Can you do that?
Can you hold on so your uncle can meet you in person? I'll try, Uncle Tom. I promise I'll try. And David, tell me something about yourself. Tell me what you like, what you're interested in. I want to know everything about my nephew. David's voice became slightly stronger, energized by the connection. I love movies, Uncle Tom. Especially yours. I've seen Forrest Gump probably 50 times, and I work with kids. I was an elementary school teacher before I got sick. Dad said, I got that from the Hanks family gene for taking care of people. Tom smiled through his tears. David, you sound like exactly the kind of person I would want as a nephew. I can't wait to meet you. As the call continued, something beautiful happened in studio. The audience, the crew, even the production staff began working together to help Tom get to Portland. Someone was already on their phone booking flights. Others were coordinating with a hospital, and everyone was united in making this reunion happen as quickly as possible. Uncle Tom, David said as the call began to wind down. Yes, David, thank you for not being too busy for me. Thank you for wanting to meet me, even though you just found out I exist 5 minutes ago. Tom's voice was filled with love and conviction. David, your family is never an interruption. Family is the most important appointment you'll ever keep. Stephen addressed the audience as the call concluded. Ladies and gentlemen, we've just witnessed something extraordinary. Sometimes life reminds us that the most important stories aren't the ones we plan to tell. They're the ones that find us when we least expect them. Tom remained on stage as the audience slowly filed out, still processing what had just happened. Stephen approached him with profound respect. Tom, how are you feeling right now?
Stephen asked.
Tom wiped his eyes and looked around the studio. I'm feeling grateful, Stephen. Grateful that David found the courage to reach out. Grateful that Larry raised a son who wanted to know his family. Grateful that I get the chance to be an uncle to someone who needs family right now. His voice became more reflective. And I'm feeling sad that Larry felt he had to hide David from me. I wish my brother had known that I would have loved his son just because he was his son. Regardless of any problems Larry might have been facing, Stephen nodded, understanding the complex emotions Tom was processing. What's the first thing you want to say to David when you see him in person? Tom considered this carefully. I want to tell him about his father, when we were kids. I want him to know that Larry was brave and funny and protective of me when we were young. I want David to know that whatever struggles Larry had as an adult, he started as a good person who cared about family. Tom paused, his expression becoming more determined. And I want to tell David that he's not alone anymore, that he has an uncle and an aunt and cousins who want to know him, who want to be part of his life for whatever time he has left. The episode aired exactly as it happened with the family's permission to share this remarkable story. The response was immediate and overwhelming. St. Mary's Medical Center reported being flooded with calls from people wanting to help with David's care. The show received over 400,000 messages from viewers sharing their own stories about hidden family members, unexpected reunions, and the power of reaching out when time is running short. But perhaps the most meaningful outcome was what happened in Portland the next morning. Tom arrived at the hospital and spent the next 3 days with David, sharing stories about Larry, learning about his nephew's life, and ensuring that David's final weeks were filled with the family connection he'd always dreamed of. David lived for another month, and during that time, he was surrounded by his newfound family. Tom's children visited their cousin. Rita brought home-cooked meals to the hospital, and for the first time in his life, David experienced what it felt like to be part of the larger Hanks family. When David's condition worsened, Tom was holding his hand. David's final words were, "Thank you for making me feel like I belonged somewhere." At David's service, Tom delivered a eulogy that celebrated both his nephew's life and his brother Larry's legacy. David taught me that family isn't just about the connections we know about. Tom said it's about the love that finds a way to reach across time, distance, and even secrets to bring people together when they need each other most. Tom established the David Hanks Family Connection Foundation, which helps people locate lost family members and facilitates reunions for families facing medical crisis. The foundation's motto, inspired by David's courage to reach out, is simple. Family is never a stranger. It's just someone you haven't met yet. That's not just television. That's proof that love can bridge any gap, that family bonds transcend time and circumstance, and that sometimes the most important relationships in our lives are the ones we discover when we think we already know our whole.